The National Desk, America's News Now.
This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. Breaking tonight, reports of multiple victims on the campus of the University of Las Vegas. The main suspect in a shooting on that campus now dead. Here's what we know right now. Starting at around noon local time, the university confirming shots fired on campus, sending the school into lockdown. Tonight, we know that at least 3 victims were shot. Their conditions not known right now. And while one shooter is confirmed dead, police say they're still working to rule out other possible suspects in an ongoing investigation.
The campus is a very large area to cover. Much like we had in the aftermath of 1 October, there's a lot of additional calls coming in that students hunkered down, they're afraid, they're scared. Our officers are going unit by unit, building by building with the university police and the rest of the police officers, firefighters, EMS, and making sure that we don't have any additional victims and or subjects.
And we're going to continue to follow this breaking news for you and bring you the latest developments on air and online at thenationaldesk.com. Turning now to the shakeup on Capitol Hill, former Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy set to now become a former congressman. The California lawmaker announcing he will resign from office at the end of the year, something he said he would not do when ousted from the position due to GOP party infighting back in October. So what does that mean for Congress? We have to take a look at the numbers, because when lawmakers return from their holiday recess on January 2nd, House Republicans' majority will fall 7 votes, 2020 to 2013, with 2 vacancies. And that means that they can lose only 3 votes to pass any measure brought to the floor if Democrats stay united. McCarthy says he's stepping down to pursue his passion in a new arena and to, quote, serve America in new ways. His retirement ends a 16-year House career where he rose through the ranks of GOP leadership. McCarthy's departure before the end of his term means California Governor Gavin Newsom will be calling a special election to replace him. War crimes have been filed by the U.S. Department of Justice against 4 Russians accused of abducting, beating, and torturing a U.S. citizen during the invasion of Ukraine, representing a brand new step in the campaign against Russia's aggression against its neighboring country.
These charges against 4 Russia-affiliated military personnel are the Justice Department's first criminal charges under the U.S. War Crimes Statute. They are also an important step toward accountability for the Russian regime's illegal war in Ukraine. Our work is far from done.
Investigators say the Russians pulled the victim from his home naked, beat him multiple times, told him he was going to die, and staged mock executions. He was not involved in the war. The victim was held for 10 days before he was eventually evacuated with his Ukrainian wife. Unclear at this point if the suspects will ever see their day in court. Independent human rights experts say they also have evidence of multiple war crimes by Russian forces, including torture, rape, and murder. Meantime, tonight, a death toll exceeding 16,000 people, according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry, as Israeli forces continue their military campaign in the south. The UN now calling Gaza one of the world's most dangerous places. The situation for Palestinians on the ground, quote, getting worse each minute. This after Israel reports hitting 250 targets in the last 24 hours, in addition to reports of high casualties. The heavy strikes, shelling, and fighting at this hour, blocking relief workers from distributing food, water, medicine all across the Gaza Strip. Israel tonight says it's in its 3rd phase of this ground operation, with troops now encircling a key southern Gaza city, the city of Khan Yunis, right here, as you can see, just in the south, where they now claim senior Hamas commanders are hiding. They're hiding in Khan Yunis. But as the military campaign intensifies, growing concerns at this point for the hostages that are left behind. 138 reported hostages still in Gaza, 8 of them American, possibly in the very tunnels. U.S. officials have said Israel is now considering flooding with seawater as a tactic to drive out the fighters they say they believe are inside. U.S. officials reiterating today they are doing all they can to get those 8 individuals released. Just four Israeli American dual citizens have been freed so far. Meantime, tonight, the death toll due to flooding rising in the Northwest. At least 2 people have died in Oregon as an atmospheric river of rain continues. Flood watches still in effect in parts of Washington and Oregon through this evening. All Amtrak service between Portland and Seattle remains closed until at least tomorrow. Both Seattle and Olympia have already set records for the amount of rainfall in a single day. Olympia had nearly 3 inches of rain. The Stillaguamish River on the west side of Washington also set an all-time record, cresting at 21.34 feet. Anything over 19 feet is a major flood risk. 6 Republicans have been indicted in Nevada by a grand jury for submitting false certificates claiming Donald Trump won the state's general election in 2020. Nevada is now the 3rd state to seek to criminally prosecute fake electors. Nevada prosecutors secured cooperative testimony from Kenneth Chesebro to help make their case. Chesebro is indicted in Georgia alongside former President Trump for their actions to overturn Georgia's 2020 election. And in Colorado, the legal battle to keep Donald Trump off the primary ballot was under review by the state's Supreme Court today. At issue is the attempt to disqualify the former president for violating Section 3 of the 14th Amendment for his conduct on January 6, 2021 that led to the riot at the U.S. Capitol. A district court judge ruled last month that Trump did engage in insurrection but did not remove him from the ballot. It is expected that whatever the Colorado Supreme Court decides, it will be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. And authorities in Texas, they have identified 34-year-old Shane James as the suspect in a string of shootings across Austin and San Antonio that left 6 people there dead and at least 3 others injured. James was arrested last night after leading police on a chase through Austin. He was taken into custody with a gun in his possession. It is unknown as of yet if there is any relationship between James and any of the victims. He has been charged with multiple counts of capital murder. In about 2 hours, 4 of the final 5 GOP candidates will take the stage in Alabama for the 4th Republican presidential debate. Meanwhile, President Biden and former President Trump are getting candid on the campaign trail and are not holding back on why they're running or what they'd do if they were reelected. The National Desk's Atrell Nashar explains what they said and perhaps why they said it.
The field of Republican presidential candidates trying to gain any support they can during a debate in Tuscaloosa. But the 2 candidates likely to headline the general election are dominating the headlines, and for reasons their respective campaigns probably aren't too happy about. It started Tuesday afternoon when, during a campaign reception in Massachusetts, President Biden said, "Folks, this is a big deal, this election. We've got to get it done, not because of me, and I mean that. If Trump wasn't running, I'm not sure I'd be running, but we cannot let him win for the sake of the country." Hours later,
no, not now.
Many pundits were shocked he'd be so candid about his motivation to run. George Washington University's Dr. Todd Belt believes it was strategic. At a time when the president's approval ratings are low and show he's losing support of key groups like young voters and people of color.
He really thinks that when it comes down to a binary choice between himself and Donald Trump, that he's going to win, and that the prospect of what Donald Trump's second term might look like is enough to scare people over to the Biden side.
That same night, during a Fox News town hall,
under no circumstances you are promising America tonight you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look,
what?
he's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I want to close the border and I want to drill. He says, "You're not going to be a dictator, are you?" I said, no, other than day one.
Belt says there's a strategy here, too.
Donald Trump knows that the outrage stimulates coverage, and it helps him to frame what that coverage will be.
So now the question is, can Trump's Republican primary opponents sway that public reaction to comments like that in their favor? They certainly don't have much time to do it and to chip away at Trump's dominating lead in the polls, with the Iowa caucuses less than 6 weeks away.
Yeah, that window is quickly closing. It is, Atra, speaking of what you were just referring to, is that something we expect to see on the debate stage tonight?
When it comes to former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, absolutely. He has never shied away from criticizing Trump, from calling out comments. Certainly, we expect to see him refer to that dictator comment. It's been almost a foundation of his campaign going after Trump. But the other three candidates, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and Vivek Ramaswamy, they've had to walk this fine line so that they don't isolate Trump supporters. They want them to come over to their side without, insulting their candidate too much. However, things may be different tonight, Amira, because this is the last scheduled debate before Republican voters start casting their ballots in the primaries and the caucuses. So maybe that dictator comment last night was their excuse, their go-ahead to throw some caution to the wind and go after Trump a little bit harder tonight. Or maybe their stakes are even higher for them to try and appease his supporters that they're still trying to win over.
Atral Nashar live in Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Thanks.
And former Vice President Mike Pence is officially listed as a witness who could be called to testify in the Georgia 2020 election case against former President Donald Trump. That's according to CNN, citing sources familiar with court documents. Pence has insisted the Georgia election was not stolen and that he did not have a right to overturn the results on January 6th. Legendary producer and television icon Norman Lear has passed away at the age of 101. Best known for producing the hit TV show All in the Family and the series of spin-off shows throughout the 70s, The Jeffersons, Maude, Good Times, and Sanford and Son, he changed the landscape of the medium using sitcoms as a way to influence social commentary on major hot-button topics. Lear won 6 Emmy Awards out of 19 nominations. He also won 2 Peabody Awards and was working on new shows and projects until he was nearly 100 years old. Coming up, lawmakers say changes at the southern border are needed now, but they still don't quite agree on what that will look like. Then, what we know about the cause of a rise in pediatric lung cases and when to call your doctor. Plus, a heated debate over school choice vouchers continues in Texas. What happens now that another special session on the issue has ended? We're back in 90 seconds. Chairman James Comer and Jim Jordan of the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees were warning Hunter Biden that if he fails to appear for his closed-door hearing next week, he will be held in contempt of Congress. Hunter Biden had said he would voluntarily testify before Congress, but only if it was done in public. Oversight Committee ranking member Jamie Raskin rebuked that decision by the chairman on X today. Although while in the majority, Democrats held both Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro in contempt of Congress for also failing to appear before closed-door hearings. The CEOs of the country's biggest banks are warning that certain proposed regulations could harm the economy. In a Senate hearing today, the leaders expressed concern about proposals related to overdraft fees, along with rules from the Fed that would require holding more capital on balance sheets. Several bank CEOs also recently said they're concerned about a possible economic downturn. And tonight, the pictures coming in are almost unbelievable. Migrants from every corner of the globe have shown up at our doorstep on the southern border. What changes to make remains an issue front and center on Capitol Hill, as Christine Frizzell reports.
This is what it looks like when a rural Arizona port of entry shuts down. Hundreds of adult men, largely from Africa, waiting as local leaders beg the federal government for help.
This is a bad decision that impacts our border security. It hurts our economy.
The situation in Lukeville, Arizona, one in a long line of dire concerns at the southern border. In San Diego County, a long line of Chinese migrants. Critics say are coming because they've gotten the message too, that if they ask for asylum, they'll get in, even though the vast majority of them don't actually qualify under current law.
Crime, hunger, poverty, looking for a job are no reasons, but they are able to come in.
It's one reason why many lawmakers in Washington say they're tying border security to a bill which provides aid for Ukraine and Israel.
If you want us to get involved with how we're helping out other countries, a lot of Americans are saying you've got to do our country right first.
Democrats say the Republican plan is too extreme and should include additional pathways for immigrants to work here.
With over 9.5 million jobs open right now in America, our farmers, hospitals, and small business owners desperately need immigrants to meet their workforce needs.
President Biden's proposal does include far more funding to hire thousands more Border Patrol agents, as well as immigration attorneys and judges.
We've presented proposals that address the situation, that provide real practical solutions, and also do not do violence to our fundamental values.
Senator Mitt Romney calling Democrats clueless, posting on X, Dems want $106 billion, GOP wants a closed border. That's the trade. The debate over how to secure the border has been going on for decades, but the issue has moved to the top of the priority list in recent weeks as cities and towns both close to and far away from the border struggle with the crisis. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting for the National Desk. America's News Now.
Christine, thank you. The special election to replace former Congressman George Santos is now set for February 13th. New York Governor Kathy Hochul set the date following the House's decision to expel Santos on Friday. People in Long Island and Queens will vote for a new District 3 representative. There won't be a primary. Democrats and Republicans are expected to announce candidates this week. The remains of 3 more airmen aboard a U.S. Osprey aircraft that crashed into Japan's waters last week have been recovered. The Air Force said today. The force announcing yesterday that all 8 crew members are believed to be dead. The search continues for 2 airmen still unaccounted for. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said there would be a, quote, rigorous and thorough investigation. Secretary of State Blinken and the top Chinese diplomat have agreed to continue building on recent progress relations. In a call today, both officials referenced last month's meeting between Presidents Biden and Xi. They also agreed to collaborate to prevent the Israel-Hamas war from spreading and to continue communicating about the situation. The new contract between the Actors Union and TV studios will be ratified. About 78% of SAG-AFTRA members voted in favor of ratifying the deal with studios yesterday. The agreement ended a 118-day strike on November 8th. The deal runs through June of 2026, and CNN reports it brings in more than $1 billion in new compensation and benefits. Google, meantime, is now rolling out a new artificial intelligence model called Gemini that launched just today. It has 3 versions, Ultra, Pro, and Nano, and it's being incorporated into Google's AI chatbot Bard and the Pixel 8 Pro smartphone. Gemini will be used in a more advanced chatbot next year. Customers will be able to access Gemini through Google Cloud starting this month. Infectious disease specialists say many of the nation's pneumonia cases appear to be linked to an uncommon but treatable cause if diagnosed properly. Medical reporter Liz Bonis shares what infectious disease specialists say we should know about how to protect against it.
Hey there, everybody. As the number of pediatric cases of pneumonia continue to grow in several states as well as around the world, many are referring to these cases as part of what's called white lung pneumonia or white lung syndrome. It's called that because the X-ray image with this kind of pneumonia looks white. Infectious disease specialist Dr. Stephen Blatt of Ohio's Tri-Health told me it looks white because...
Well, it's actually fluid. So when your body is fighting a pneumonia, it puts a lot of fluid in the lungs with white blood cells that can fight the infection.
Dr. Blatt says it's linked to this latest childhood pneumonia outbreak because it's being driven by a particular organism called a mycoplasma.
This mycoplasma is actually an unusual bacteria that can cause both an upper respiratory syndrome, kind of like a virus, and then it can go down in the lungs and cause actual pneumonia itself.
This mycoplasma, also known to quickly spread through classrooms and locker rooms, he says, when kids are in close contact. While it's not new or novel, Dr. Blatt says,
this white lung affects both lungs fairly diffusely, which is not common.
Proper diagnosis is needed for the right antibiotics to treat it. Couple of early warning signs: cough, fever, sweating, shaking, chills, shortness of breath, rapid or shallow breathing, even a stabbing pain in the chest, as well as low energy, nausea and vomiting in small children especially, and confusion in older adults. If any of these get worse instead of better, call your doctor. With your health news, I'm medical reporter Liz Bonus reporting.
All right, Liz, thank you. And coming up, time is running out for a California animal shelter to get dogs adopted. Why the shelter and animals are losing their home in just a few weeks. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America. Police still looking for the 9 people who broke into the Brothers Smoke Shop in Mansfield, Massachusetts late Monday night. Officials say the suspects stole tens of thousands of dollars in merchandise. Video captured the thieves entering after someone smashed through the window and reached in to unlock the door. One suspect smashed the counter with a hammer before swiping merchandise.
This one was broken and everything was messed up. And we see all the products, they took it. We see it they drop it on the road and everything. This never happened in Mansfield like this. There was 9 people came in to break in, and it's all children's, all 16, 17 years old.
The community is on edge. Anyone with information should contact Mansfield Police.
Second Chance Animal Shelter has provided animal control services in Selma for nearly 10 years, but its contract with the city of Selma is not being renewed. At the end of the month, the shelter and 129 dogs will be losing their home.
We have dogs that have been here for as little as a week, all the way up to 2 years. You know, we need to give them that second chance, so we are trying to do our due diligence to get these dogs adopted, fostered, and rescued out.
Sandu says all of the dogs have been vaccinated except for rabies. That's because they don't have a veterinarian at the shelter. With just 26 days until January, she says time is short.
And the fate of school vouchers in Texas is still unclear. A special session ended yesterday with both chambers still at an impasse over vouchers or Governor Greg Abbott's priority proposal to let parents use taxpayer dollars to help pay for private school costs. For months, people fighting against voucher bills have been asking the legislature to not let state-house feuds get in the way, but that's exactly what happened.
Students and staff, and really our community at large, is going to suffer as a result.
Governor Abbott promises to continue the fight for school choice, but is keeping lawmakers in suspense about whether he will call yet another special session to try and pass vouchers. Coming up, Time Magazine's Person of the Year may not be that surprising. The reason behind the selection when we come back in just 90 seconds. Well, Miss Americana is America's Time Person of the Year. Taylor Swift, of course, gracing the cover of Time magazine, selected, the publication said, because she found a way to give people around the world hope in some seriously dark times. Swift enjoyed a sweet surge of success in 2023, from a largely sold-out concert tour and concert movie to record-breaking Grammy nominations. This pop singer-songwriter is cementing her reputation as a global influencer, proving there's no bad blood between T-Swift and her millions of fans. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. We do invite you to join us again this evening. Just check your local listings for times. I'm Amira David. Thank you so much for watching.